deeper into this. Well, just before we get into our next area of discussion, I'd like to just bring to you this report which we had already put out earlier in regards to how the banks have performed, and this will be forming a basis for a discussion with Sam Shepherd, who is the CEO of Jumia, just to get a sense of how the delivery business continues to perform in the country.
The COVID-19 pandemic did not only shake the global economy, but left a trail of economic destruction in the banking sector.
2020 was a challenging year in its own ways.
2020, as you know, was also a very challenging year, thanks to COVID.
It was a year with difficulties. We also felt firsthand the difficulties for COVID-19.
Leading banks in the country recorded a decline in profit after tax. Tier 1 lenders such as KCB's net profit declined by 22%, equity banks by 11%, Standard Chartered by 34%, and NCBS by 42%.
I think the big story for us in 2020 was on provisions. We structured 78 billion worth of customer loans.
We also saw our profitability drop to 7.5 billion, which is a result of what was happening last year.
Our LI moved from 0.6 billion to 3.9 billion as a consequence of the tough macroeconomic environment because of the pandemic.
We had to accommodate and provide lower fees. Most of the fees were actually waived because of the difficulties we faced in 2020.
But to analysts, of key concern is the health of the loan book, which we saw 57% of the total loans worth over 1.7 trillion shillings was restructured.
And if loan losses continue to mount, then there's a risk that after 3 years, the banks will need to start raising Tier 2 capital. And by the way, we've already seen a couple of banks raising Tier 2 capital, including equity, which signed up a lot of DFI funding over the last 6 months.
More investments in government securities drove asset growth, with technology boosting customer deposits.
All right, that report brings us to our next area of focus, and this is in the delivery business. Well, the lockdown measures did affect quite a number of retail sector players, as well as restaurants and bars and pubs. I'm now joined by Sam Shepherd, who is the CEO of Jumia, just to give us a sense of how the delivery business is performing under the pandemic. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. No, it's difficult times for many retailers, for many restaurants in particular. The biggest impact, I mean, there's two impacts. One impact is the closing of sit-ins. The second impact is impacting the evening meal, which is typically 50% of sales. So, you know, there are a lot of jobs at stake. And I think our job as sort of the home delivery services is to support the restaurants and try and enable them to service customers at home.
Speaking about the home delivery business, are you able to give us the data in regards to, did we see a spike immediately the lockdown measures were put in place? And perhaps talk to us about what does this say in regards to the trends we are likely to see?
Yeah, we've seen quite rapid acceleration of food delivery from restaurants, from supermarkets as well, both the big chains and the independents over the last year. Over the last couple of days, since the latest measures have come in, we've seen, you know, growth as well, and I think that's going to be the continuation of the trend. And so, in a way, this what's happening now is an opportunity for restaurants, for independent grocery stores, for other businesses to lean into the online trend and take advantage of the fact that there's a lot of traction now. Now is the time to invest and to get stuck in and start selling online.
And speaking about guys getting into this line of business. Talk to us about, in regards to how this is going to impact, especially on the restaurant business. Some say by the fact that people are able to sell online, it has a negative downside to it, especially when it comes to restaurants cannibalizing on others that are actually operating in the same platform.
I don't think it cannibalizes. At the end of the day, whether customers order from you, while sitting in your restaurant, or order from you when sitting at home. It's customers that are trying to get the food that they want or to order the groceries that they want delivered to them. And so I don't think it's cannibalizing at all. If anything, you're actually creating convenience with home delivery. And so, someone might decide, I was thinking of cooking and staying home, but now because it's easier to get home delivery, I'm just going to order in, and therefore actually you increase the dine out experience, and therefore you grow the share of wallet for the industry.
All right. And speaking about last year, we did see a surge in the number of restaurants you signed up. And are we likely to see more coming on board in light of the pandemic situation we are in?
I think absolutely. We've seen over the last year about a 50% growth in the number of sellers on Jumia Food. And I think that's a reflection of the uptake of restaurants, of grocery stores signing up, wanting to start to do home deliveries with a partner that can support them to do so. I think we'll continue to do that, absolutely. I think many businesses are still in that journey of starting to go digital. And in particular, the smaller businesses, the independents. The big chains have been doing it for a while. The independents, I think, are starting to come on board in a faster way, and I think we'll start to see, more grocery stores, more even open markets start to sell things online.
All right. And last but not least, of course, in regards to this, what's the game plan for Jumia, especially now that there seems to be a heightened interest around restaurants coming on board on such platforms? We do know there are quite a number of other platforms in the marketplace. Is this an indication that e-commerce is gradually but surely becoming our new normal?
That's our job. Our job is to try and do so, and we're working. I think that the big job for the Jumia Food and home delivery business at the moment is to increase the choice that's available for people, to make sure that you can find things at the 100, 200 shillings for a meal mark that will grow the industry in a big way, and that's what we're working on now.
All right. Thank you so much, Sam Shapat, the CEO for Jumia, just giving us the latest lowdown on how the food business continues to perform, especially in light of the COVID-19 pandemic and opportunities really for players in the marketplace. Well, that's where we wrap it up from me and the entire team behind this production. See you next week, because tomorrow